Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa. Joined by Hannah today. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Hating the
Mm.
international break as always, but yeah, feeling good.
Villa flying. Villa back. I remember you said that a couple of episodes ago, but we are. I feel like we're proper back. How are you feeling about Villa in general, and touch on maybe the Bournemouth performance?
Yeah, absolutely. Still on a high after that performance against Bournemouth. I think it was one of my favourite Villa performances for such a long time. I feel like we've not had, despite the kind of pick up in form this season in the last month or so, we've not had many of those games where you come away and you feel like, yeah, that was a really good performance and really good result. And I feel like we would due one of those at home where we put quite a few past the team. And I was quite nervous going into the Bournemouth game, not because I doubted us, because I do think we've got a decent record against them, but more so it was one of those where, they are a team on the rise, and I didn't want us to sort of underestimate the competition. But again, we did beat Man City, so I was trying to be positive, but we definitely surpassed my expectations. I think definitely I think started to put a few doubters to rest, particularly like externally, who, had noticed the dip in form at the start of the season and were like, Villa are going to be nowhere near good enough this season. And now I think we've kind of righted that narrative a little bit and are back in the conversation about being in those European spots. And the table is quite congested, so it's just so important at the minute that we do keep, totting up the points, especially at home. I mean, there's loads of stats out there about how good our home form is, and it's amazing to have such a fortress at home and still again be picking up points on the road, which are equally important. So I'm feeling really good. I think the break to win before an international break is always really nice, isn't it? Because you kind of have a couple of weeks off, albeit it's boring, but you kind of end on a high. I just hope that the players that we do have out for the next 2 weeks don't come back injured, and those that stay back at camp get more fit, and yeah, that we kick on even more when we come back, because we're now in the running for the end of the year, which feels ridiculous. It feels like we were just starting the season, but this is the last stretch now, isn't it? This run of games up until the festive period, so it'll be super busy fixture calendar, and we'll have some tricky games. But I also think we've got a little run post international break that looks quite nice, doesn't it? So yeah, lots to look forward to, but we think we're in a good space, aren't we, at the minute?
Yeah, I think we kind of joked when we were at that time when we said we're back. Like we were back, but do you kind of feel like the performance against Bournemouth added a lot to your views of kind of where we are and what we can achieve? Because I think I look at Villa and I think we're capable of beating anybody on our day. Like we're capable of beating Man City and we beat them. But I think the Bournemouth one, where we're coming up against a team that are in and around us, that are playing really, really well, that aren't sort of your Man City, that they're good, aren't they? But they're probably easier to plan for than say a Bournemouth, who are like all out attack, like really high pressing, can cause you a lot of serious problems. And against Man City, we could go into say like a mid-low block and see them out for say 25. But Bournemouth was like completely different. Like you can't do that at home against these teams at Villa Park because we expect to be on the front foot and we expect to beat them. So do you kind of feel like that performance gave you more confidence for what is achievable this season?
Maybe a little bit. I think we've said loads of times, I think Villa more so seem to struggle against the teams that you think we should beat. I think the go ahead Eagles example is absolutely exhibit A, perfect blueprint of a Villa cock up. Because we do struggle against those teams that sit tight and want to play us on the counter. I don't think Bournemouth are like that. I think Bournemouth came to play football, and it was an enjoyable game. I think if you were a neutral watching that first half, you would have probably found it to be quite an entertaining back and forth sort of game. So I think Emery likes ones like that. He likes a game where he knows he can sort of tactically tweak things, and we can show the best of ourselves. For me, I think the best examples of Villa proving themselves at a different level is when we beat those teams that do sit in a little bit and are quite tough to break down. Like for me, even playing some of the relegation fodder, which you kind of expect to be Burnley, um, Wolves coming up. Those are the games I think that often become more important for Villa because we are such a sucker for falling victim to a low block, a team down to 10 men. Anything that becomes a challenge to break down, those are the ones I think we struggle. So the the Bournemouth result was brilliant because I think, yeah, we could. They were probably a little bit harder to suss out. Not sure how they were going to turn up, but we knew that they were going to come and try and play football. I think for Villa for the rest of the season, I want to see us kind of shake off some of those old habits that we seem to struggle with a lot. Like I say, with those teams that are tricky to beat, we've got some of them coming up, and I think even some of the European games, there a lot of them are like that, especially when you play away. And in the big intimidating atmosphere. So I think we've got plenty of tests to come, and I think I'm pretty sure Leeds is our next game, if I'm correct. I think that will be one of those where we go into an away team that are really struggling. It feels like very rarely do we actually go and blow those teams away. It feels like we struggle. So I think that game for me, if we can go there and get a really good result and a good performance, I almost feel like that will be an even bigger reassurance for me.
Yeah. So we've got 10 games now between now and 2026, which for me is quite a long stretch of games. We've kind of this season, I'd say, well, with Europe, you're probably having like 6 games and then an international break, whereas you're probably having like 4 Premier League games. And, it's very stop-start, and it can halt your progress a little bit, or it can sort of like come at the right time or the wrong time, probably in our situation right now. So the next 10 games, I think this is like prime English football where there's a lot of congested fixtures. There's a lot of, in December, I think, where is it actually? Brighton, we got on a Wednesday, and then Arsenal on a Saturday, Sunday, and then at Christmas. So, the fixture we got next. So we got Leeds away, Young Boys at home, Wolves at home, Brighton away, Arsenal at home, Basel away, West Ham away, United on the 21st at home. The 27th, we've got Chelsea away. And on the 30th, we've got Arsenal away. I think this phase of the season, I kind of feel like it suits Emery. I think Emery loves the back-to-back to just keep going. And I don't feel like he likes stop-start because he's very sort of, he likes to just get on with things, doesn't he? You seem like coming out the tunnel, he just wants to get to the touchline. He wants to get out of there. Press conference, he doesn't like doing them, and he just wants to just get on with it and just do probably what he likes doing and just manage the team and coach the team. So, what would you say? And I know it's difficult, sort of like looking ahead, but what's your ideal scenario out of most of those? Do you think we just need to be in and around where we are right now come 2026?
Yeah, I think we've had similar conversations in previous years where I always think that where you are around Christmas, turn of the year, it tends to be like a good reflection of how you're going to be at the end of the season. I feel like there's not been many times where, well, especially under Emery, that things have gone drastically worse or better. It tends to be about the same. I think last season we did have a little bit of a improvement in the new year because we obviously did some good business with the loans in the January window. But for the most part, I'd like to think that we can really bed ourselves in those European places in the next like 6 weeks, and that kind of continues into the new year. The fixture congestion, I do agree. I think it's definitely like an Emery trait to like love the momentum of playing football, and you just know his appetite is that he wants to be playing games all the time. He wants to be learning from the last one, and he wants to be kicking on and taking those learnings to the next game. So I can imagine like in an international break like this, especially when a lot of his players are away in camp, that he sort of is just clock watching, like, come on, when are we off to Ellen Road sort of thing. So I do think it suits him, and I think it suits his managerial style. He's like a fiercely competitive, demanding manager, and I think that's what comes through from the way the players speak about him and the kind of it's like a culture of excellence, and that doesn't come from sitting around enjoying a break, I don't think. So, I mean, I'm not quite sure who in the fixture planning department decided that we should play Arsenal twice in a month.
Mm.
That's I know sometimes that's how things like fall. We play teams in quick succession, but twice in a month feels yikes. So that I think that'll be tricky. But yeah, there's always a United around Christmas as well
I know.
to,
Yeah.
to spice things
I
up a
mean,
bit. But
we play them before Christmas, so like let's not ruin Christmas.
do you
You know,
remember
the
was it
Boxing Day. Oh, I do
there was
remember.
there was Boxing Day. I was actually going to say, and it wasn't United, Manchester United, but it was a United 2 seasons ago. I think it was the season we qualified for the Champions League. We had Sheffield United on a similar day, 21st, 22nd, and we were going to go first for Christmas. And we like, I think we drew, was it 1-1 or something? We like
Yeah.
dropped absolute stinker. They got relegated that season. Um, and that just like put such like a what like how did we manage that? We could have been first at Christmas, like the best Christmas present ever. So I'm always conscious of those like pre-Christmas games of a spanner in the works.
Mm.
But for the most part, I think like again, I'm just having a quick look at our fixtures. We always seem again, I don't want to touch everything, but I think Brighton away, we always seem to do okay there. The Arsenal game, we're at home, so it'll be incredible if we could pull off again a similar result to 2 seasons ago where we beat them. The Basel game away in Europe will be difficult, but you'd like to think that we'll have the upper hand there. West Ham away, they're sort of on the rise, but again, you'd like to think we've got the better of them. The United at home will be a tasty fixture. We had a really dull 0-0 last season, so I'm hoping it's not the same. And then Chelsea and Arsenal away are really tricky at the very tail end of the year. But you'd like to think if we have a really good sort of build up in December, that those fixtures were in good momentum and it's like a positive end to the year. But it's definitely I like what you say. It's like feels the total essence of English football is like the festive period where you're playing loads of games, you go in wrapped in your scarf and your hat, and freezing cold and everyone's got the bovril, and yeah, it's just that feels like pure the culture of English
Mm.
sport. So I am looking forward to it. I think it's nice that we've sort of struck form at this time of year because we're really going to need it, and the momentum I think is going to have to carry us because there's going to be tired legs, and I think keeping a fit squad will be really important. Obviously, having Tielemans and Barkley back in the midfield is going to be a huge boost because there's going to be a lot of minutes in there. So yeah, I think it's just about keeping a fit squad and building that momentum.
Yeah, it feels like the belief is starting to come back, which I think is also absolutely massive. One thing about these fixtures is that we play Forest twice in 2026. We haven't played
Mm,
Forest. So
yeah.
I don't know why we don't play Forest when we're meant to be playing one of those Arsenal games, because then you'd have
Mm,
finished the whole sort of like first phase. But I don't know why we're not playing Forest until then. But so let's touch on some of your positives and negatives then. Kick off with negatives then. Have you got any concerns or worries or just things that are niggling at you, or maybe you've
mm.
just got all positives?
Now, I've always got some constructive criticism, I think. Until we win the Premier League or the Champions League, I'm gonna have some criticism.
Okay.
I don't know. I think, I mean, I'd welcome your opinion. I think for me, two things spring to mind, and this is me not massively like prepping for this, but I think one would be the amount that we've conceded this season from crosses, set pieces. Seems to be that's a bit of a vulnerability. Definitely turned the tide a little bit because obviously we've had a number of clean sheets now. And I think having Martinez sort of really building back a bit of confidence is important because you can see that he's not been right. There's been something wrong there, whether it was the eye in the move or whatnot, I'm not sure. But we've started to kind of go in the right direction, but I still have a little bit of insecurity about our ability to defend from crosses and set pieces. So I'd like to see that continue to improve because like the best thing is a clean sheet. If you got a clean sheet, I believe that we can win at every game. It's that simple really. And I think having Conte in the form that he is, obviously, is a huge boost. And I think Powell has improved a lot again this season. He was one of them that I felt had a little bit of a dip, but seems to be, again, really sort of growing back into himself. The right back position, I think Matty Cash has just totally blown away the cobwebs and all of the kind of grumbling, but we're kind of like an injury away from a bit of a crisis there. So that kind of segues me into my second negative, and my concern would just be kind of squad depth in some positions. And I think it's right back, but it's also what we're doing with the striker position. Is it Marlon now? Like, is Marlon the Watkins competition and he's looking over his shoulder? I think it might be. My biggest concern is that we need to get Ollie Watkins scoring. We know that he is definitely a confidence player. He's shown that throughout his whole Villa career. He comes in fits and starts. He'll have a bit of a barren run, but then he'll score 5 games in a row. But it does seem like this one is eking on a little bit too long, and we're kind of managing now because other players in the team have started to tally up goals. But this is the problem we had back at the start of the season. When Watkins isn't scoring and no one else in the team is scoring, we're in a real sticky position. So I think the Watkins form and revival in front of goal is something that is the most pressing issue for me at the minute, and it's not something I necessarily think can be coached or put
No.
into tactics. It's down to him to do that, but it's like he just needs that one thing to click, and I can just you can see the weight of the world on his shoulders. You can feel it in him, and something needs to click for him because otherwise, I think it's going to get to the point where you're going to have to start Martin every game because he's the one that's scoring goals. And it's really unfortunate because we know how good Watkins can be. And he's got all the attributes for an amazing player. And we know that Emery loves him because of his work rate and all those attributes. He just needs the ball in the net.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've done a scouting episode on strikers and talking about strikers that came out yesterday. I really want to just pin you down a little bit on Watkins. Do you believe that Watkins is maybe at the start of next season going to be an Aston Villa first choice striker? Or do you believe that for what Watkins does for the team, which is very important? Like, I watched Villa's pitch side the other day, and when Watkins went off, Emery was like, to me, it looked like he was going, he smashed it, like brilliant, love it, like he's performed really well. But does there have to become a point where you do look at goals and think that is also vitally important, or do you think we should just be really chill on it and just see how it goes?
I don't think there's any element of football that's chill ever. You can feel the pressure building. You really can. I saw from where I sit in the opportunity, I watched him come off. I saw the Emery like rallied around him and was like slapping him, I think, on the chest.
Mhm.
And my interpretation of that was him trying to say, like, you played really well, great job, really happy with you. And when like the media are questioning Watkins, like I say, Emery is like so behind him because that's what Watkins needs. Like I say, it's a confidence thing. It's not an ability thing. He is our top goal scorer. Like, the man can score goals. So I do think in the short term he needs to play, because if he's not going to play, it's just gonna, I just see it going down, 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 down. In terms of whether he's a player for us next season, I think if he's not the starting striker, he's not at the club. He's not a player that's going to be a number two, not at Aston Villa. I think maybe if he was at, like, if Arsenal win the league and it's his boyhood club and they want him, I think he'd probably accept it, but not at Villa, because he knows he's always been the main man there. He's never going to accept being a
No.
number two. So if that's the case, if we bring someone in next summer, it means Watkins going in. I think there's no doubt in my mind that that's the case. We obviously all feel quite sentimental towards him for so many reasons, and I think when he does leave Hill season this year, he has a lot of love from me. I can say that for sure. But there is no time to kind of be chill about it. If he has a really poor season and Emery isn't happy with the lack of goals, he'll have to go. Then you get into the conversation, like you've probably deep dived into scouting strikers. There's not many out there. It becomes a big debate of who on earth replaces him. But for this season, he has to keep playing, in my opinion, until he gets his goal. But there is a line, like I say, Marlon will have to come in if we're in need of a goal. You can't put sentimentality first, unfortunately, and it is sad because we know he can do it.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like where we are with Emery, that is kind of why I don't believe we can have sort of a sentiment, because Emery's not going to be here for forever, is he? And while we've got him, I think we've got to just get every ounce of everything that we possibly can. And yeah, I think that's just the situation. I think you're spot on. I think, I love him. I think he's brilliant, and I just wanted to see him score more goals. I appreciate everything else he does, but at the end of the day, he has got to score. And he's a bit unfortunate. Look at Marlon's goal, like just came off him, but then I still don't feel like that would have done Watkins the world of good anyway, because it's just one of
No,
them. I mean,
yeah,
it's not like one where you go, "Wow, I'm feeling really good about myself now, mate."
yeah,
It's just that your leg and it's gone in. But so I'll feed on to my next point then. And I know we'll start getting a lot of questions about January and what we're going to do, or where do we need to improve the squad. I'm initially now, actually, you saying about nothing in football is quite chill, but I'm actually quite chill about this January window. I wouldn't. I think we've probably got bigger fish to fry in the summer. I think.
100%.
I think we've got more value within scouting and who we want to sign in the summer. I do not see us doing what we did last season with Rashford, Asensio, wages, and all that. I just don't see. I
Yeah,
really don't. I think maybe if there's some opportunistic where we can go, well, there's a right winger there that we really want. Can we test it? Can we try it? I think we might. But apart from that, as of now, I think January might be quite quiet. What do
yeah.
you think?
I do lean towards agreeing with you. I think last season we were in the Champions League, and I think it was like we have to go all in to try and qualify again and go far in that competition and the FA Cup and everything that we were um, in the chances of qualifying again and that helping our financial situation. I think we went like gung ho, and obviously the availability of player. So like Asensio and Rashford, I can't remember when they came in. I feel like it was like not really early on. I feel like that those deals kind of trickled in later in the window. So it was like the players were kind of there. We had the wage money and we just went for it. I think this summer has probably really tightened things on the PSR and the wage front. I think we're at a position now where we are being careful, and Monchi departing, we can't forget that. We've got a whole new person now that's going to be in charge of it. We've spoken kind of offline on our WhatsApp or whatever about how Villa need to become that scouting team. Villa need the kind of Brighton, Brentford mentality, even like to an extent, like some of the players Chelsea have managed to bring in. We need some of those young stars to come through that we can bring in at a pretty low price, that are talents either for now or that we're going to be able to sell on pretty quickly in the next year. Pretty much exactly what we did with John Duran. Like, he wasn't much money in the grand scheme of things, and brought us in a major profit. But I think in terms of like the business model of the football club, we need to start bringing in cheap and flipping for big money. That's just the way it is. And scouting's a big part of that. But obviously, we also want some of them gems to come and stay at the club. I think the big thing is kind of like the Harvey Elliott debate, which we've gone over a million times, and I won't get into it. But it's a bit like, if he's not playing, is he going back? And is that because Emery didn't want him and Emery's got his eyes still on another player? We kind of touched on before, like, does Paquetá become available in January? And Emery wanted him, and West Ham are struggling. Will they sell him? But I just don't see us having the money to fling around in January. I think if anything, we're just going to wait. So at the minute, because we have sort of rallied round and turned around form, and things are going quite well, there's no sort of panic button to sort of press and be like, we need to bring players in. We're doing okay in the Europa League, and as long as that continues, hopefully we qualify in the top 8, which I think we'll know by January or the end of January. Then I think we'll feel pretty confident that we've got the tools to navigate the Europa League. And then we're obviously out of the League Cup, and it's just the FA Cup. If we're doing well in the Europa and well in the Premier League, we know FA Cup the priority. If we fall out of that, kills me. Do we want to win something? We probably will end up falling out of that competition. So I think we do have the tools, but again, it comes back to fitness. If we can bring 1 or 2 in reinforcements, then so be it. But I don't see this January window as like a fundamental, we need something to change. If we look back to last January, not only did we bring in those like attacking reinforcements, but it was like quite a big time in general because we'd had a lot of injuries last season, particularly defensive ones as well. And then we had to bring in like Disassi. So there was lots of sort of gaps being plugged last season. Whereas I think this year, so far, in the last 6 weeks or so, we're making the best of our squad, and that was without Tielemans. Onana's only really come back in the last month and started to hit the ground running. There's lots of players that are coming back, so keep them fit, and I don't see us doing loads of business.
Very good. I think you've kind of echo like my thoughts really on most things. I think we kind of do think pretty similar really. But yeah, I think it's been quite insightful getting your thoughts on everything Aston Villa, and hopefully Villa fans, you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, hit the subscribe button, smash the likes, and most importantly, comment your thoughts. Up the Villa, Hannah.
Up the Villa.